Welcome to Thanet Writers Meets. I'm Neanderthal Bard, and today I'm lucky enough to be sat with the artist formerly known as Harry Baker. Mr. Harry Way, welcome.
Thank you very much.
You've just become a full-time Margate resident.
Yeah.
What was it that sealed the deal?
It was, so just got married, hence the name change. Who knows who Harry Baker is, who the artist is, whatever. But yeah, it felt exciting. I grew up in London, and I've got relatives who live by the sea. Grace, my partner, knows people down in Kent, down this way, and so we started talking about it, and it was one of them things where once we mentioned it once, we kept hearing about it in other places. It felt right, and so yeah, change of pace. The writer's dream, live by the sea.
Yeah, maybe. People, I don't know if you realise, like, you were the youngest ever world slam champion, right?
Yeah.
The youngest ever. Yeah. Don't flop that with superstar. Really. Well, that, I mean, I it's not my, my usual thing, but it's just the comedy that you bring across in it. Oh mate, it's like, it's like their fire and rage is melted by your just calm, cool. It's considered response, and to do that and keep composure at the same time is awesome. Yeah. So what do you think about the chasm between like the spoken word and page poetry?
So I think, for me, I got into poetry through a love of language. I always liked rhyming. I always liked the technicality of it, and so growing up, I was listening to a lot of music. More kind of hip hop rap stuff, but also just decent singer-songwriters. And so, for me, there was a real love of language, and that was alongside reading, kids' poetry books, whether that's Michael Rose and Benjamin Zephaniah or whatever. So for me, poetry was there, but I didn't love studying it at school. For me, it came alive when it was experienced.
Absolutely.
And it was a lot easier, for the point where I was at, to experience it in a live setting, hearing people say their own poems.
More common vernacular as well.
Rather than reading it and being told what to think about it. And through performing, through meeting other poets, through buying the books of performers that I love, I've learnt to appreciate it on the page as well. But I kind of feel like I came into it sideways, so there's huge gaps in my knowledge of, I don't know if you've had this, but if I tell people I'm a poet and they say, who's your favourite poet, and you mention someone who's still alive, they sort of look confused.
Well, that's not his primary, Did you get what I mean?
And they'll mention classical poets, and for a while I had a real chip on my shoulder where I felt like I couldn't call myself a poet because I hadn't had anything published or wasn't in any anthologies, and I got my book published, and I'm so proud of it. But that's through...
What's that called?
The Sunshine Kid.
Sunshine Kid on Amazon?
Yeah. And that was through Burning Eye. But they are amazing because they provide a platform for a lot of performance poets. Because there was a huge gap.
There is. It's still there, I feel.
Yeah, and so... But I kind of... So the idea of this chasm, I think, is fascinating. And again, I got into it through poetry slams as well, because... as with open mics, anyone could get up on stage and perform, and it was judged by the people in the room and the audience, and so it didn't matter whether or not you had a degree in English or whatever it was. It was just about entertaining who's in the room. I think when it's tricky is when it goes too far in either direction, because there's page poets who are brilliant who I like, there's page poets who are brilliant who I don't really get, and that's fine. And I think for some people, because slam came out of this almost backlash against
absolutely.
That, some people want...
As a response.
Yeah.
Responsible.
And I think the two can exist and the two can be brilliant, and they provide spaces for different people. And
absolutely.
If people can just be comfortable existing at one end of the spectrum without putting down the other end, I think that's a start at least. Because also you have that amazing feeling of discovery when people go to the other side. And and when I went to a literary festival, I suddenly saw a load of other writers who I'd never heard of before, and it's about occupying that space. But it's the same with anything. I think the way politics feels like it's polarising with everything. Once you talk to people and meet people, it's a lot harder to demonise them, because you realise you have a lot more in common. People aren't used to it, and that's fine, and you learn that actually not everyone's going to love everything you do. That's impossible, and that's part of the fun, and that's fine. And what was interesting about the rap battles was I had to plough through this period of like, who the hell is this guy? And it was only about 3 or 4 battles in when I was still there, and actually was more comfortable being myself rather than trying to sound like the other rappers that I was going up against.
It's a problem I have a certain...
And I think...
poetry voicey.
Yeah, and then they were, then suddenly people are like, oh yeah, it's Harry, and they're expecting me to do a bunch of stupid puns and not take it seriously.
Funny,
and
yeah,
funny,
absolutely.
and that's fine. And it was sort of like an initiation period that you don't get in poetry, because you can go to an open mic and it's fine.
Entry level is very, very, very simple.
Yeah, and so that was fascinating. But it's a similar thing of, you know, when people discover anything for the first time, they sort of are a bit reluctant. And I sort of think that's okay. And if you're gonna, you either hide away in your comfort zone where you know people are gonna like what you do, or if you do step outside of that, you've got to be prepared for people to not like it. And also, of the 100 comments on my first rap battle telling me I'm shit, there's, you know, 30,000 people have watched that who would never have otherwise seen it. And as with the internet, people with a sort of gentle, normal opinion don't feel the need to comment.
Absolutely.
So you can read that and think, oh my god, I'm terrible.
Absolutely.
What was I thinking?
Those 5 comments on the 30,000 views.
Yeah.
It's hard to see a perspective in that.
And there's people who have watched a rap battle, got stuck in a YouTube wormhole, stumbled across a poetry video, and come along to a live event and had a connection in person. And none of that was documented online, because that's just how normal people operate. You know, I don't know how many videos I've commented on YouTube, but it's not many.
No, me neither. So you've already got a book, The Sunshine Kid, as we talked about, and you've earmarked a couple of months off now for like to acclimatise to Margate life, get into the old, you know what I mean, the rhythm of things. What else are we gonna like see from you?
I'm excited to be writing new stuff, and like I love going into schools. I love doing
The workshops.
So the Sunshine Kid book, you know, I wrote, that came out end of 2014. So those poems still feel relevant in schools, because that was when I was writing them. And it's a lot about like, coming of age stuff, and I can see kids in the classes that was me, and that still speaks to them. But I would love to have enough new poems, such as when I do a feature, like on Thursday, I can do a couple of old ones, but do a couple of new ones, and feel like actually if people have seen me before, I've got something new to offer.
Absolutely.
And it's not just
writing, you see, it's the performance that goes with it too. It's a lot more into it.
So I'm excited to get back into that, and I've realised that I think I work best when I'm working on a few different things. So I sort of thought, I've got to give time to Harry and Chris, and then come back to the poetry.
I was just thinking of the Big Bang Theory, and I feel like Sheldon on interviewing Stephen Hawking. Honestly, I am slightly peculiar, anyway. You know what I mean? But it's his idea. Honestly, you do exactly what I want to be doing in a few years, and that's really important. So it's been really, really awesome getting the chance to spend a little bit of time with you. This has been Thanet Meets. I've been Neanderthal Bard. This has been Mr. Harry Ray.